know we had a lot of people confused on logistics.
Finding places.
Yeah.
Should we start right on time?
You can wait a few minutes, that's fine.
Whatever you think.
Yeah, whatever you'd like to do, yeah. I'm just going to make sure the camera is actually recording right now because I'm not familiar with this, so.
There were a couple of people said they might have some, they might delay people coming.
Yeah, because the keynote just ended, so.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, so maybe a few minutes.
Okay. Just give me a signal when you think I should start. Okay?
Sure.
Yeah, you got a red light here.
Okay, the red light there.
Okay.
People are saying that. Let's see, okay, because this audio's good when you're the computer, but that was from yesterday. Yeah, that's why we're testing it here.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. Hang here, get a little cushier, and I'm not going to ask questions. Yeah. Just keep an eye on it. So, yeah, should be good. Yeah, if you want to show up here so you can kind of look over and see what's going on.
Okay. You're good for the begin whenever you're ready. Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us here today. I'm Christopher Evans. I'm your host for this session, and appreciate you coming in. I'm sure we'll probably still have a few folks coming in as we start, but I want to be respectful of your time and try to get us underway. I do intend this discussion to be very much interactive as possible, so please feel free to jump in and ask questions or until the end. But definitely would like to have a lot of engagement on this. And before I begin, I just wanted to ask the audience to kind of gauge where you are with social media and mobile. Because believe it or not, I've been in presentations where it's all over the map. Those that are super users and folks who are really interested in learning about these areas for the very first time. So I'll just ask a show of hands here. How many of you in the room have a smartphone? All right, good. How many of you use Facebook? Everybody. LinkedIn? Okay, Twitter? Okay, fantastic. Well, some of the pieces of what we have in here may end up being a little rudimentary for those of you who are super users of that, but that's okay because we can tweak the discussion accordingly. What I'm most interested in sharing with you today, and I hope this is new, it's not photorealistic here, but the presentation that I brought along to show you, is talking about why these areas are innovative and what disruption has to do with engagement with your audience. Whether or not you're someone who's interested in hosting a podcast presentation or selling products or services to people B2C, B2B, social media and mobile are two areas that are converging quite rapidly. And hopefully some of this will be informative. So away we go. Before I really get on that, a little bit about my background. I'm Vice President of Corporate Strategy, Sales and Marketing at a company called Truefit. And our company is a Pittsburgh-based company that is an innovation firm. Our company works with entrepreneurial startups and large enterprises as well to bring disruptive new commercial software products to market. A lot of the work that we do is, of course, in mobile application development, as well as social media apps and web apps. So this is kind of my wheelhouse. And we've seen some really cool, innovative products come to market of late. I'm going to talk about those at the tail end of the presentation, hopefully introducing you to some products that are, I think, kind of interesting and potentially game changers in their respective markets. That's really what our goal in life is as a company, is to help individuals who have ideas bring disruptive new experiences to the marketplace. So let's talk a little bit about innovation. When you take a look at this slide here, you'll see a lot of different ideas, most of them quite disparate, right? The Boeing 747, which revolutionized how businesses operated with crossing the ocean, being able to fly, visit clients, and build business across the world. You take a look at the telephone, an obvious innovation, right? Changed the way people communicate. Most of you might not think of bottled water as innovation, but I'm going to show you that it is, and how it correlates to the rest of this discussion. Once upon a time, for those of you in the room old enough to remember, bottled water was not really something that existed commercially. It was available, but it was very rare. It was usually Perrier or other high-end luxury brands that were served in large glass bottles, usually only in a restaurant, and like beer at the time required a key to open it. And when you look today, most of us, some of us have, even though the sign says not to, have bottled water in our hands right now. What's the difference between a big glass bottle of Perrier and a bottle of water like this? Why do we see these and we don't see the large glass bottles with a key in? The obvious answer might be price. That's one piece.
Because the companies that own that company also own the water companies that lower the quality of the public water and force us to drink that.
Okay, well that's a bit of an editorial slant on. Okay, that's the next section. We'll talk about that. But let's think about it in practical terms. Price is one reason, perhaps. Absolutely. It's the user experience. Look at the difference, right? Glass. It's lightweight. It's portable. This can be disposed of more easily. It can also be tucked away in a purse. Big glass bottle can't be, right? You take these to the gym, you finish it. Unlike a key bottle, I don't have to finish this right now. I can save it and put it away. Why is that innovative? Because the user experience is adopted by a lot of people. It changes behaviors. No longer do we go to a water fountain, necessarily, as we would have prior to the innovation of bottled water. All of these up here share a common pattern of disruption, of being able to disrupt the market. Most of it because of the user experience, and low price, and low accessibility, mobility. The same is true with how communication happens through social media and is available via mobile phones and devices, tablet devices of that sort. Who cares about innovation? Everyone should. Because if you're, in my world, if you come to work with a company like ours, you're hopefully looking to build a commercial experience that is disruptive and has an opportunity to get widespread adoption in the marketplace. That's why you would work with a firm like us, right? Well, if you want to build a product that's already out there, you're not really building something that's disruptive. You're not building something that is changing the game. You're not really building a product that's innovative. Innovation is not a tagline. It is really about changing behaviors, which social media and mobile enable quite nicely. And the way that we talk about how you can kind of determine whether or not something is passes the smell test of innovation is how disruptive it is. In our world, we say that game-changing innovation leverages new technologies, like social and mobile, to create new behaviors. Meaning, we're able to now do things we couldn't do before. Or, because of the ease and convenience of the user experience, it changes how much we would adopt a particular new behavior. Ultimately, these things change relationships. Okay? And most importantly, disrupt the current norm. That's a mouthful. It's a lot to digest. But when you think about it, it's actually quite based in common sense. Once upon a time, people, not that long ago, this is what a Monday morning would look like for you, right? An alarm clock woke you up. You may stumble out of bed, go down and pour a cup of coffee, open the paper. Got to figure out if I can make it to work on time with the weather. Should I wear a coat today? What's the traffic, right? Well, you all know, every one of you in here has one of these devices. Today we don't do that. Apps like the Dark Sky app are a weather forecast on steroids. It's voted not one of our products, but one of my favorite apps. Because it changes my user experience. If I happen to be on a Saturday in the summertime by the pool, enjoying the sunshine, thinking it's going to last all day long, even though they said there's a small chance of rain, this app enables me to take a live radar wherever I am, and it will tell me when I should be expecting rain. Particularly game-changing if you're on a golf course and lightning is coming. Now, the key to this is user experience, though. If this app were very difficult to use, and for those of you who have never, has anyone in the room ever heard of the Dark Sky app? Somebody have? Okay. Fairly simple to use. Would you agree? Imagine for a moment if it were more complex or cumbersome to get to, or 16 different screens. The user experience would still be disruptive. It would still be powerful, but you wouldn't use it. Today, the most successful mobile and social media products that are commercially available are the easiest to use. The ones my 80-year-old father can understand without me explaining it 3 times, right? That doesn't mean apps are for everyone. It doesn't mean social media is for everyone. But we're talking about user experience. Very, very important underpinning when we talk about innovations that are disruptive. Mobile, in its essence, is disruptive. The fact that mobile phones exist are disruptive. But it's amazing when we think of the consolidation of things that you can do with these devices. For example, the timer here that I'm using for our session today. Small things like that, up to large things that change how you travel and how you interact with people, how you communicate, how often you communicate. And frankly, even in the case of Twitter, which we'll talk about, how you can communicate in 140 characters. When you take a look at, again, the commercial aspects of mobile being disruptive, a lot of people say, Christopher, is there a bubble? Is this about to change? I don't know these things. I'm not a stock analyst, and I can't tell you if Apple was a great five years ago. Sure, I can tell you that. I can't tell you when it's going to change, right? But what I can tell you is mobile is so disruptive that they're eclipsing the PC. The PC, as we know it, I carry one myself, is evolving in ways that are going away because of the capabilities of things like iPad and tablet devices and smartphones. So in essence, when we take a look at a stat like this, going into 2015, it looks as though smartphones will evolve. Of course, they may look very different, they may enable different functionality, but the user adoption of these is just going to go through the roof. Why is social media disruptive? Well, first off, we talked earlier about user experience making something accessible or barriers to adoption. Social media is easy. It's widespread, and it's all over. It impacts revenue for companies, not just marketers. Are any of you in the room in the marketing business? Fair percentage of it. Okay. Well, marketers inherently understand that social media enables different types of conversations. But what I'm here to try to emphasize is that it's not just about marketing products and services. It's about the behaviors. There are inherent components of social media that enable companies to fundamentally change how they build products. It's at the product development level because of two-way conversations enable user testing, if you will, as a software guy would say. That's very new. Once upon a time, marketers would tell you, the product is built, they have to figure out a way to package it, and get it out to the consumers. We have to create buzz, we have to create excitement, and that is what will get adoption. We got to feed those lousy salespeople some ammunition. Marketing would say behind closed doors with arms, right? Today, marketers are frantically trying to figure out how not so much controlling the narrative on a product idea, but understanding what is the next great innovation. What are we able to do? How can we jump the curve. It's a very cliche term now in the Bay Area. Jump the curve of our competition. How can we create a disruptive new experience? Social media and mobile together are two really, really great ways when you converge of doing it. And it's spawning different types of product ideas, fundamentally changing the way people even think of creating a customer experience or product for customers. So I guess we take a look at this, and again, there's nowhere to go but up. Now, many of you in the room know LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter. We are going to spend a few minutes on that. I thought that this slide here was actually quite amazing. Being in the business of building apps, there are a number of them that I've never heard of. Does anyone recognize any of these that you've never seen before today? You've all seen each one of them? You all know? No. Right, it's amazing. And I would have been surprised if I can't believe the answer was yes. Because this slide will change if I get back to you in 2 weeks. It's really amazing. I think the important piece to look at on this slide, and why I particularly like it, is if you are looking to create a product or an experience with a client or a demographic, you need to realize not every single social media channel is where you want to devote your time. That's really what it's about. If you're really trying to have a disruptive new product or client experience, you need to know where to focus your energies. The type of business that is focusing on using Tumblr or Wiki is very different than, potentially, than one that's looking at Tumblr or LinkedIn. How do you know? How can you determine? It all depends on what type of interaction you're seeking to create and what kind of product or service that you're on market. You have to go where your users are and communicate in social manners in which they wish to communicate. For the purposes of today's discussion, I'm going to focus on a couple of these. LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, probably the most common, because, again, each of you have different purposes for wanting to know about innovation or have a curiosity on this. These, to me, are perhaps the most widely available for someone who wants to start something. Like I said, we work a lot with startup companies. So if I had a product idea, I wanted to build a brand new app, and I'm just a guy in my basement, really wants to get this thing to market. There are ways that a combination of these, or any individual one, maybe executive. Who here uses LinkedIn in the room pretty regularly? Almost all of them. Has anyone in the room never been on LinkedIn or uses it sporadically? Who would say in here, would you raise your hand and say, I'm a super user, like I'm on this thing all day long? No? Okay, but you're off there. You have a profile, right? Okay. The cool thing about LinkedIn is in itself is a disruptive experience. I remember the first time I signed up for it a couple of years ago. I didn't know what it was, and I didn't know why I did it. Someone told me, oh, you need a profile. People were sending me all these invites, and to be very honest with you, I didn't care. Until I started digging a little deeper and realizing, what is the hidden power? Why is this thing potentially a very disruptive new way of doing it? It isn't just a great source for recruiters to find talent or for people to find jobs. That is the most obvious use of it. But it's a way to even get new products to market in a very targeted manner by finding groups and areas where your potential users are hanging out. Looking at these statistics is fairly staggering. Like this room is quite representative of this slide. Everyone's on this. What I think is perhaps most interesting about LinkedIn are the pace at which they are rolling out new changes. Again, trying to make the experience very different and unique, not just mirroring what you see on Facebook. And that's for a very good reason. That is because the type of user that's going to use this product is a little bit different than the Facebook user. What I mean by that is there's a different type of demographic you can go after here than you can on Facebook. It's less about advertising here, and it's a little bit more about direct connection with players within spheres of influence that you're looking to go after. It's also a way to get news. But one of the things that I've seen mission critical with any of these social media channels is talking about engagement. And that's a lot more than posting, hey, I just had a great cup of coffee at this coffee shop. How many of you get sick of some of your friends on Facebook? Puppies and dogs, and that girl or that guy who wants to complain about how they got dumped. You're like, didn't I just see this already 2 weeks ago? This poor pathetic loser. Well, we don't see that on LinkedIn, do you? That's obvious why, because LinkedIn is a little bit more of a B2B and B2C player. It's less about the social aspects of your life. Having said that, sometimes people's Twitter feeds come into LinkedIn and annoy the living heck out of people like me who don't care about the cat or who they work up with or what they're making for dinner. I do care about that stuff on Facebook, though. That's what I'm saying. When you're thinking about building a product or coming up with an idea and you want to engage with your proper demographic, you really have to think, where do they hang out and why would they be in that particular channel? How can I maximize and tailor my message if I do plan to use all of these channels? But most importantly, where do I appropriate my time? Because you can't do it all. Unless you have a staff of 50, and no one does, to handle social media, except for big companies, you really can't be on as much as you need to be. So the key is figuring out and understanding which of the social media channels are right for you. If you take a look here, this is a very typical week. Those of you, some of you might be, Tasha, I know you are, if I LinkedIn. People often say to me, Christopher, I learned more about your company from LinkedIn than I do about your website. And once upon a time, I used to get angry there. Yeah, they're not paying attention. Put all this on the website with all the new bios and great photos of all my employees. Why are they? And I realized it wasn't that the website wasn't drawing traffic or their eyes. It was that people have an opportunity to push more information here because they're hanging out here. And they're not just hanging out here on the web experience. They're hanging out on LinkedIn on their mobile devices. Do any of you use the LinkedIn mobile app fairly regularly? Now, this might surprise you, but how many of you use it more than you use the web interface? Exactly. So again, when we talk about the convergence of social and mobile, it proves my point. Some of this may sound a little bit obvious to those of you who use it, but again, it's mission critical to be thinking, how do I then market to the person who uses the mobile experience of a LinkedIn or Facebook more than the web experience? I think this is pretty obvious as far as lead generation goes. I guess the big thing, too, whether or not we're here a year from today or 2 years from today still talking about LinkedIn as a relevant source for information and or connections with that which it provides, or how they continue to update their user experience. If you've noticed recently, the iPad version of the app is quite robust. I think it surpasses what came with the web experience. That's pretty amazing when you think of the origins of it. But the key is to continue to update it, to monitor trends, and to get a lot of user feedback. You have a question? Yes?
I do, about a group being on LinkedIn, but nothing about it.
Okay, okay.
This back office doesn't cost you money every month.
Well, actually, it doesn't necessarily cost you money. You can subscribe for, I believe they call it a premium membership. There may be a branding name I'm missing in there. But it doesn't have to cost you money. You had asked about groups. Groups are a great point. We talk about relevance, right?
Right.
I don't know if I have the ability to pull up mine on there. I probably do, but if you notice, the types of groups that your users are involved in is where you want to be hanging out. Again, what is my purpose? Am I looking for lead generation? Am I looking to hire people? Or am I looking to promote a particular product in an area? That's how groups are best used. Hanging around with people virtually. It's like what you would do in the old days of business-to-business marketing. You would go to a trade show. LinkedIn offers you sort of a virtual trade show experience every day. I'm in there, I'm following stuff about innovation, or following stuff about the mobile players. And oftentimes, in fact, I'll digress from it and tell you how the group gave me a great deal. I happened to be in there one afternoon looking, and I don't remember the particular name, but it was about mobile application development. And I read a frantic post from an entrepreneur in California who had had a very bad experience with a mobile app developer. They were offshore. It was a charged her more than she thought, which is, again, kind of atypical for an offshore model. And she was stranded. She had a really tight deadline to get a product built. And guess who she's getting a call from? Us. Actually, what I did was not call her. I just posted in there, if you would like to talk about an alternate strategy to fixing this, we might be able to help. And she called me. And she is a client of ours now, and is building a really cool digital box now. And she made her deadline. But the point is, I would never know about her unless I was hanging out in a group that was relevant to her and to me.
Can you start a group?
You certainly can. Absolutely. In fact, a lot of companies have company LinkedIn pages. We promote products, not our own. In our case, we build products for other people. So if Jessica here comes up with a great app idea, she gets funded and she wants to build it. Part of how we would help her promote it afterward is posting it in our LinkedIn company page, because a lot of people follow it. So she gets promotion. It's a win for her. It's great for us too, because we get to drive and build a great product for her. So you can start a group, absolutely. The key is, like any social media experience, is getting followers. You have to have people who are interested and engaged. So they have abilities for you to send LinkedIn mails and in essence, messaging. You had a question, or you wanted to add something to that?
No, I was just going to say it's free.
Yeah.
If you want to upgrade, you can. You get extra features, but you don't have to.
Exactly right.
It's not free.
Oh, yes. Absolutely.
The whole basic model is free. If you want upgrades, and honestly, you don't get that much in an initial upgrade. So.
And unbeknownst to you, you're actually talking about one of the hottest questions I get, which is how do you monetize social media? How do you monetize this stuff when everything's free? We can say that for the end. I do have some thoughts around that. But does that answer your question about the
Yes. Thank you.
Sure. So let's move to Twitter. Everybody here uses Twitter, right? I've got super users in the room, okay? I'm going to ask you then some questions. How do you use Twitter? Who uses it for a professional business? Anyone? Okay, sir, if you don't mind, what is something you would be talking about on Twitter? What kind of business are you in?
I'm a photographer, so
okay.
I'm often tweeting links to recent sessions or links to interesting photography-related stuff. I'm also involved in animal rescue, so I'm sort of reaching out and retweeting hello bully links.
Sure.
Stuff like that.
Sure. And I would imagine it feels pretty awesome when someone retweets.
Oh yeah.
Right? I don't really understand why a retweet is important. It's hard to measure. Marketers, I know you get asked that question. But a retweet is because all of my followers, let's say I have 1,000. If I like what he's talking about and I retweet that, other people pick that up. It's an unbelievable way of going viral on stories and news. News travels faster on Twitter than it does on the other social media channels. Why? Because of the user experience. It's designed to do that. Short bursts, 140 characters. Yes, we use photographs, and that's a big piece now, right? Once upon a time, Twitter was not a place where people thought about it with photography, not your business, but rather literally a photo. More and more tweets have photos attached to them. For example, as we speak now here, our company is tweeting about this particular event. It's not just about Christopher's up here speaking, it's about the topics, it's about the questions we get. So the active followers are evangelizing your message. Right? And again, the key to that is not only engagement, but understanding what is relevant to your audience. If I am up here chatting away about coffee from Ecuador and no one cares, or someone tweets it, but the people that tweet it aren't other followers like I want, I'm not really effectively getting my message out. We use it a number of ways. I'm sorry that this is not the best photo, but if you'll see here, we often feature other people's product ideas, even if we've not built it, if we think it's cool. Why in the world would you do free promotion? Because it's relevant. This is a particularly disruptive product. Its name is Pop Chilla, and it is a robot for autistic children built by a local startup company called Interbots. Why do we post that? We happen to think that it's a game-changing product. It enables autistic children to interact with a robot, and even the children who have a real tough time communicating with human beings have shown amazing results with this product. So people like Interbots, who are not a marketing powerhouse, are getting all the eyes of the world to follow me to see their product. You had a question, Rob? Or comment?
Disruptive, what do you mean by?
Okay, certainly. Market disruption. It's a term that I use as saying whether or not a product idea has the ability to change behavior. In other words, can I now do, or will I now do something in a different way than I would have before your product idea had the market? Okay? Perhaps a practical example would be helpful. In the old days, how did you find a job when you wanted to leave? You hated your employer, you wanted, I got it down on here. You call your friends, right? Anybody have a job for me? Anybody know a recruiter I can talk to? You looked in the one ads, right? Oh, most of us have done this. We know all that. Okay? With LinkedIn, I don't know about anybody really looking in the classifieds like they used to. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but something like LinkedIn is disruptive because it changes how people find jobs and find opportunities. In my case, it changed how I found a client. I wasn't even really hunting that hard that day. But you could literally build a business off of scouring your contacts and building contacts in LinkedIn, to your point, being free. Why is that disruptive? It changes how a business model works. It changes, that's business model innovation. That's the most exciting stuff about both mobile and social media, is the untapped potential of how businesses can be created, leveraging the free functionality.
I just want to expand on your point there about how the traditional job search was like the potential employee trying to go find a job with someone. I've actually found through Twitter and Facebook to a lesser extent that sometimes jobs find you. If you're tweeting about stuff that sort of interests you, people sort of pick up on that, and your circle sort of expands.
Absolutely.
They say, hey, I got this job, are you available?
Truth be told, that's how I got this job. I wasn't looking for it. Someone was out there watching what I had been doing for a long time and following the kind of things that I was talking about, the kind of products that I'd been involved with, and the kind of brands that I've built, and had a friend, and truth that he was looking for, not even necessarily looking for to make a hire, but they were definitely looking to augment the brand strategy. And subsequently, they contacted me through LinkedIn and said, you need to meet the CEO, and lo and behold, here I am. I think you had a question.
I was just going to say that I think the word disruptive, a couple of years ago would be seen as an invasive negative word, whereas now we're talking about disruptive and more of a, we're bringing you information in the places that you are, we're interrupting.
Exactly.
And it's not a negative thing. I don't think.
It's not at all negative. That is an excellent point. For anyone in the room who may have thought that I'm using disruptive in a negative, I'm saying it's positive. Let me give you a quick scenario. If you were to come to me and say, I have the greatest idea for a brand new app, I would sit down with you, our company would sit down with you, and measure whether or not it really is worth building for you. Does it do something you can't do already do? Or can it do it better? If it can, we need to kind of dial up the value to ensure that it has the ability to disrupt the current way of doing things. Why does it have to be so disruptive? Well, chances are someone has to pay for that to be developed and designed. You may have to court investors, angel investors, or venture capitalists. What they want to know is whether or not if they invest in your product, it has the ability to execute. Will I really get my money back? And by the way, I don't just want it back. I want 10 times what I gave you. That's all the angels for, right? The only way that's going to happen is if you have a product that is potentially very disruptive. And by the way, just because it's disruptive at the time you conceptualize it and start building it, you may have to adjust it along the way to make changes to it to continue based on the fact that these worlds, social media and mobile, are evolving literally as we speak. What I'm talking about today will be obsolete by the time we eat Thanksgiving dinner. No lie. Bet me money. I've had this type of presentation every week. That's a good thing, because there are other disruptions that are coming out. These groups like Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn have amazing power to change how we act, how our behaviors act. Has anyone in here, for example, it's a little off the presentation, has anyone in here stopped being friends with someone because of something they saw on Facebook? Right? I have. Have you ever gotten annoyed with someone who you used to like, and you can't believe you're annoyed with them because you haven't even talked to them in 6 months? That's behavioral change. That's disruption, not in a good way. Same thing's true also with LinkedIn. You can start watching patterns of job jumpers, job seekers. I know when someone wants to leave my company. Doesn't happen. But I can tell by who they It's the eye in the sky. But it doesn't have to be viewed quite so negatively. The positive powers of social media, I believe, far outweigh the negatives. It's like anything else. It depends whose hands it's in. Here's a great example of that, kind of an interesting segue. So, is anyone here in the healthcare business? No. A couple of you? Okay, you are. Okay. So, I'll say this, you can counter this if you think that I'm mistaken, but in my experience in information technology, sometimes hospitals and healthcare are not really the most innovative when it comes to tech. They're kind of slow to adopt. It's hard to believe, right? There are reasons for that. Medicine is by its very nature right now. There's an exception. iPad is on the rise of adoption in healthcare like no other industry. So social media. In the case here that I have listed for you, this particular hospital, the Henry Ford Hospital, I believe in Detroit, Michigan, was the first to do a live tweeted surgery. Who the heck wants to see that, right? Sure you do. Most of the time, when surgeries are happening, one of the ways that many doctors learn, those who are in training, are in a room high above watching what's happening. Pretty cool, right? Well, what happens if you don't live in Michigan, right? Now, with this live treatment surgery, doctors all over the planet were involved with this particular this particular surgery. And we're commenting live about ways they would do things differently, we're asking questions. Medical journals were publishing it. Students all over the world were able to witness this. Literally, this person, hopefully they made it, had a major operation. That's game changing. That's changing how medicine is occurring, how people are learning about a given anything. And this is just one example. Why else Twitter in particular and social media are important? It's about thought leadership. Now, this particular hospital is able to evangelize that they were involved with this, and they become recognized as a thought leader of this particular type of treatment. Patients may be more inclined, if they have that kind of procedure, to go to consider traveling to that hospital because they happen to be a recognized thought leader. That's game changing. That's disruption. You're not just going to the hospital down the street because your dad is there. That's changing the game on how healthcare is administered. Patient retention. You're able to stay in touch with the patients and be more proactive about wellness. Hey, so you've had that surgery. What are you doing? Are you keeping up with you? There are actually practitioners in the hospital that are tweeting and followers and keeping in front of you from a brand perspective. It's hard to think about healthcare being sold, but it is very much so. Sharing national health observations. Education, once again. We're hearing new trends coming out of New York. New York, we have heard that California is doing this, but it's happening a lot faster, and so on and so forth. And also promotion and events. iPad, again, in the hospital setting, and I'm just using this and I'll use a couple of other examples, I think perhaps one of the biggest game changers. Who's had to be treated by a doctor lately? Anyone? We've got to help you here. I'm glad to hear that. So they talk about Pittsburgh being okay. No way, we're in good shape. Sometimes when you go see a doctor, they don't stay very long with you in the room. I don't know if you've ever had that experience. It's frustrating. Geez, I'm a piece of meat. This one's in and out. And they prescribe something and they're on the way. Not because the doctors do. They have all these other patients to see. With iPad, now we're seeing doctors doing more patient care in the room without leaving. They're not running down the hall at the kiosk. They're conferring live. They're spending more time with patients. That's a game changer. That's disruptive. That's a disruptive experience in a positive sense because they're changing how they behave with the patient. They're also able to streamline and reduce paper. We had an entrepreneur who came to us. I can't say too much about the idea. It's highly proprietary. What I can say is that he sold surgical equipment and realized that there was a way that if he had everything that they do step by step, which now took 5 people over 6 weeks and about 3 or 4 different computer systems, he could consolidate that to an app. He could probably get the cell in the operating room and comply with all the regulations that have to comply. That fellow will be retiring pretty soon. I'm sure. I wish we owned the IP of that. And that's not uncommon. iPad is creating innovations in healthcare across the board. And also disrupting patients all around. So again, streamlining, getting better patient care. Procedural videos. That's another thing. A lot of what I haven't talked about yet, but I should emphasize, is that each of these social media experiences and mobile experiences, video plays a huge piece in it. It's unbelievable how impactful video can be. Again, I'll take a slight segue. I mentioned before, we work a lot with the entrepreneurs who get funded by the angels and the VC. The best presentations have a product demo of what they're trying to do, and usually have video. In the case of Pop Chilla, the robot for autistic children that I mentioned earlier, we, full disclosure, did consult that company on how to pitch to the investors. They want to show the robot. They were talking about it. I said, bring the robot in the room. I want to see the robot on the stand. Make his eyes light up. But most of all, show me a video of the child being treated by that robot. Let me tell you something. That's powerful stuff. Okay? And again, with the iPad, that person would pass that demo around in the room while they're pitching. Again, it's portability, it's mobility. Who here uses Facebook for business? Anyone? Okay, great. Now, we've already asked you to share your Twitter example. How about you? If you don't mind sharing, what type of business you're in and how you use it?
I'm a marketing consultant, so I run my own Facebook page, but I also manage Facebook pages.
Right. So a lot, I'm going to be speaking to you here, so I fill in my sentences, I'm sure, because Facebook is a marketer's dream. And the beautiful thing is we still have control over how much or how little this stuff is. I'm going to show you an example of a company that's doing, a local company that's doing a great job with social media. Giant Eagle. Giant Eagle is one of those unusual brands that so dominates a region, not unlike UPMC has here. We don't really have a lot of grocery competition. There's Whole Foods, of course, where I spend my paycheck. We want to cook good stuff. But what Giant Eagle realized, I think, quite effectively is Facebook is a really easy way to engage with their customers. And again, some of this may seem kind of basic, and feel free to ask questions or jump in if you know something I don't know, because there's so much hidden functionality on this. But just here alone, they're able to daily change what features they're showing in a visual setting. And I see that every time they update, if I happen to like their page. They're also able to do a lot of promotional giveaways for fuel perks and things like that. And here's the most important part. So far, what I've just talked about is pushing markets. Not unusual. Used to do it in print. They run weekly specials, double coupons, all that stuff. But the difference is here, they can also hear from a really pissed off customer who hated what they had, and they can't hide from them. They're forced to engage with them. Sure, you can try to go through and delete the posts, and the best run brands aren't doing that. They're coming in there and they're saying, we're sorry your experience was horrible. Here's what we've done to change that. Made modifications to that store and blah, blah, blah. We're going to counter almost minute by minute. You see the presidential campaigns using social media this way. And it's probably the most demonstrative example of that is this election cycle. You don't wait 6 hours to clear the news cycle of someone's complaining about your site. You click it, boom, you're countering live. How effective that is, you can make an argument. Yes, ma'am.
I think it's very effective. I am locked down and I run 3 web pages for, 3 Facebook pages for the restaurant. So if somebody had that experience and they tell me on there, they might not have told me in person while they were still in the restaurant, for some reason too shy, embarrassed, maybe partially wrong.
Yes.
But then they lash out there and tell you, or other methods. But then when we do answer them, we're answering everybody. There's 100 other people that didn't tell you something.
Exactly.
So
you get a chance to get your
You absolutely get a chance to repair the brand and help. But anytime somebody has a negative problem, you have an opportunity to turn it into a positive.
Exactly.
So many brands want to take it down or don't want to engage on there, but that's one of the biggest values of it. You can't get better. You can't get better without somebody telling you what you didn't do right.
Marketers for so many years operated in a vacuum sometimes, and we thought we're pushing the right product, or we're taking care of the customer, we've seen some data. Here you're able to actually also change the product experience. My God, how many people love this chicken finger? I can't believe we took it off the menu. Or wow, the honey mustard. You're changing your business model. Disruption. Live. Literally on a day-to-day. You can watch specials. If this chicken doesn't move, or they get bad feedback on it for whatever reason, they know quickly to get that thing off there and put something else in. They also do a nice job with the holiday specials. I also get to see how many of my friends are into this. I might be able to, not in the case of Johnny, but think of a restaurant, right? If you love a restaurant, and you see that perhaps another couple dines there often, and you're friends with them, maybe we invite them next time to go out with us, because they also like the same stuff. Oh, as a marketer, I'm watching, because now I know where and what neighborhoods things are going. Again, high in the sky, but it's not a bad thing. It's really about having a two-way conversation with your prospects and clients and shaping your products around what they want. The consumer is in command with social media. That's the beautiful thing. We're an hour more. We're not just pushing messaging, we're not just pushing products. We have an opportunity to shape what people sell to us. Manufacturing. Now, when you think about manufacturing, you don't often think of manufacturing companies as potentially the most avant-garde when it comes to technology. I beg to differ. A company like Channel Lock actually won awards. Look at that, 20,000 likes. Local company, too. You're able to get information that is specific to your industry. Folks that are really, really interested in tungsten carbide wrenches, there's a group there for them. And I know that I'm going to be able to market other products to them, and they care. Again, we talked a little bit about the power of video. Really great and inexpensive way here for people to put up daily things or new product launches and show the consumer what it's like. I will say that we talked about this last week. One of the most interesting statistics I saw in 2010, I had been at the time in discussions with Vail Resorts about how they were advertising to their public. And the economy has changed. It's a bit of a downturn, still is. And they said, well, Christopher, we are no longer going to publicize the resort in Condé Nast and travel in Asia, the traditional they're one of the biggest advertisers in the print business for vacation opportunities. They said, we're realizing today, the person decides on Wednesday if they're coming from California, they're going to fly for the weekend to ski if there's snow. So we are not going to spend all this time trying to market 6 months out and get the East Coast people to plan these long vacations because nobody has the money to not do it this year. We're going to hit them with social media, videos of the day that we have sick powder. And we're going to get them up here on their specials. We're going to show them they're not going to do resist. Very well done. Very video based. In fact, at some point, a Facebook post from Vail on many days would not have any text other than why aren't you here or something to that effect. And showing people just blasting through the snow. I'd see that at work. I'm working on speaking. Right? So again, disruption because it changes. Now here's the bad news about that. If you're in the print business, right? You know that. Which even printing companies can innovate and leverage these technologies. They change the way they communicate to the users. They change how they communicate. Sadly, the one byproduct of that is sometimes you find news sources are tailoring their messaging to people that follow their like-minded. You know, if you're on MSNBC, you're not on Fox. It's not, you know, that again, a different discussion. But to the user, that's kind of good because I know where I want to go to get what I need. When we talk about using social media and we'll get back to mobile in just a few seconds, I guess the biggest lesson that I would advise to all of you and those of you who are marketing consultants in the room probably share this information with your prospects. Figure out your objectives and then allocate your resources. You cannot do it all. You don't have to be in every single channel. There are some really amazing stats that social networking is most active among 18 to 34-year-old women. And you can see the regions of the country and where their income lie. That means if you're marketing a certain product to this demographic, pay close attention to where the ladies are hanging out. Where are they buying? What are they talking about and how do they like to communicate? Same thing is true with gentlemen. There are other, I think, wiki guys. I'm not on it, but very a lot of men on it. There's demographics that show that. Mobile and social media are on the rise. I mean, the bottom line is all the things you used to do on your desktop, you're doing now on your phones. Gaming is huge. Gamification is becoming a really huge trend for mobile development as well. We had a company, well, we'll show that one a little bit later. We would never think of it as a gaming company. One of their most successful product launches came because we looked at game for them. There's nothing more than a marketing effort to reach out to their customer and get them to engage in these ways. Mark Ellinger here talks about massive disruptive moment. They're not only being asked about mobile learning strategy, but the social networking, the ability to connect people in the community to help them learn. The consumer is interested in learning about products. They want to learn. They want to be taught. They want to be educated. They want features and benefits. And these channels are really great ways of communicating. Again, more stats of the same. And I'd be happy to share this slide with you. But I want to get into some of the nitty-gritty on some of the products that we've seen that are really cool. Trends shaping mobile right now, social media and mobile are very much intertwined. I already showed that example to all of you. Most of you have a smartphone. Most of you are using Facebook, or LinkedIn, or Twitter in these manners. So you have to really understand your content strategy and your mobile strategy. Most importantly, I would advise a very much a two-way conversation with your prospects and your clients to understand what they want and tailor what you give them based on that feedback. Social feedback is becoming a part of the content development process. That is very exciting. People are shaping products based on things that we like. So if you need to ask whether or not you're doing the right things on social media or mobile, who are your most valuable customers? Who are the ones that are most profitable? You may have a client that comes into the restaurant and hates everything. They may never come back. And guess what? They may be the same person that's going to do that at 5 other restaurants. Do we really want that customer? Would we build a brand loyalty program around that person? No. So organizations are able to read and see a little bit more about who the most valuable customers are. And when we talk about circulating ideas, thought leadership is becoming a huge, huge trend in every industry. Organizations that are perceived as thought leaders that share information not only about their products or promotions, but about the industry or about trends that face that industry are those that have the greatest potential for market adoption. I put this one in here just because a lot of people ask me, Christopher, does my business need an app? Well, I can't really answer that for you. we can, but it's a lot longer conversation. Some of the things that you really have to understand if you need a native app versus a mobile app experience, you got to know your budget. It's going to cost you a little bit more to do a native mobile app. I'll tell you that out of the gate. But there are functions and features of the phone that you will not get access to if you build just a mobile-friendly web experience for the iPad. It really depends on how much of the native features you need to have. Are you looking to use the GPS functionality? Are you looking to use the camera? Those types of things are really, really helpful in determining whether or not you need a native app. Speed, performance, and frankly, what's your monetization strategy? All questions that we can answer. All right, so let's talk a little bit about some real products that are on the market that I think are cool and disruptive. Full disclosure, we obviously built these. One of my favorite stories. Any Pittsburgh Steelers fans in the room? Okay, I was really bummed no hands on that one. Anyone here remember the 70s Steelers or heard about those guys before Super Bowls? Yeah, right on, right? Mel Blount, Jack Ham, some big names, right? Wonderful entrepreneur by way of Philadelphia, ex-Pittsburgh, came to me 2 years ago and said, Christopher, I have an idea, and I want to see if you can help me solve 2 business problems. And he said that your website says an idea on the back of a cocktail napkin. Well, this is it, brother. Let's go. I said, okay, what do you have? He said, those guys don't want Rocky Blyer. Those guys want to be relevant to today's fan. They do. They still have a lot of insight to share about the game, and frankly, some of them have products they want to sell, or they just want to be, still on the tips of the tongues of people. They want my kids to know. I said, okay, I get it. He said, and the fan today, the fans are crazy about celebrities, right? And the kids love watching TMZ and standing outside of the ballpark to get autographs. That never has changed, right? I said, yeah. He goes, okay, build an app that connects those 2 worlds. And we said, well, we have to figure out a lot more than that. We have to understand if an app's even the right play. What are we trying to accomplish? We want the legends of the game to connect with today's fan and talk about the game today. That's the goal. And through our process, we sat down and came up with the product you see behind me, which is called Steel City Buzz. And this is an app, a mobile app for Android, iPhone, and iPad, and there's also a web experience as well, that enables you to chat with legends of the game like Rocky, Louis Lips, and other Steeler veterans, and Penguin veterans and defense games, in a Twitter-like experience. Now, why would you not just send Mel and Rocky and those guys to Twitter and to Facebook and say, go to a fan page? And you guess why?
It's true. It's too open.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, it's very open. But they don't do that. No one is not going to sit there and tweet. User experience. We talked earlier about the Perrier, right? And the key to the water bottle. Mel Blount is not going to sit there on Sunday with his busted manual hands and tweet 140 characters about the game. And guess what he would do? He would sit with voice to text, with earphones, and talk into the app, and speak candidly about the game and talk to you about the game. And you get to talk to him. He gets to choose whether or not he responds back. Ben was offsides, no, he wasn't. All that good stuff. The beautiful thing about this is, the reason that this is disruptive is it changes how I watch the game. I no longer just sit there and text my friends and say, oh my God, did you see that hit? Now I'm talking to Mark Madden and Billy Lips about that with my friends in the app. And I'm also checking scores and stats from other games. I'm connecting with Facebook. I'm posting photos. Here's the best part about this, though. You really have to do a lot of user testing. Remember we talked about kind of getting user feedback on whether or not this product makes sense? First thing we realized was apps don't work at Heinz Field. You can't get a signal, nor a console. So guess what? From a product perspective, we had to change who this was targeted to. This could no longer be the game day fan in stadium. It has to be the guys watching at home, or at a bar, or on the iPad, or the fantasy football mountain, right? So that shapes how we shape the app. You don't just say, I'm going to build an app where Rock and talks to fans. It is now in its first full year of use, and we're still looking at new monetization strategies and things like that.
Or marketing.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes. How to market it, yeah. And also, where else can we use this? Could we take this to the WWE? They have a rabid fan base too. Could you take this outside of sports altogether and have celebrities, right? Anyone here familiar with the Pittsburgh Technology Council? Pretty great group, huh? They're very helpful to the technology entrepreneur and to big businesses as well. We built an app for them. Well, finally, I talk about something that has to do with the podcast, right? Pittsburgh Tech Council came to us and said, we're worried about our TV magazine We spend a lot of money on this. It's a beautiful thing. People still buy it, or excuse me, still read it. But they're not reading like they used to. Advertising this. I don't know. We're a little worried about 2 years from now. What can we do? Let's change that. Let's take it to iPad. Let's take it to iPhone. And let's do a PDF reader where I can have a TVQ experience with my way, the way I read all my news now. Okay? And they're also able to now have more shelf life for their, well, actually we haven't completed this what's coming, for all the podcasts and the radio programs. So the beautiful thing is once upon a time, we would listen on Saturday to 1.7 to their Tech Vibe radio program. And that was it. And maybe the social media marketer of the company that put that information on would be out there and tweeting about it. But now it has infinite shelf life. It can be out there for years. They can rebroadcast. They can add to it. Another great example here, Ricky's All Day Grill is a Canadian equivalent to like an Applebee's. They wanted to completely change how they educate their internal employees on how to build the recipes. So rather than just doing an intensive training course with all their chefs, now they've automated completely. Everything is on an internal iPad app. They literally make all of the Ricky's stuff and see how it's supposed to be prepared. And here's the great part. Through employee incentive programs, they're now able to get chefs having contests to see who can build the newest, hottest recipe and do rankings around the different locations throughout Canada. So it's disruptive. It changes how their employee has a relationship, the chef in this case, with the restaurant. The other beautiful thing about this is the architecture in which it's built could also be white labeled. They could make, and I'm sorry if that's an inside baseball term, they could take this to the consumer and have a Ricky's All Day experience, consumer-facing version of this, sell recipes at home, promote other products that they wish to, at minimum, order from the iPad when you're standing in line, that kind of stuff. I go back to healthcare just because I'm really excited about some of the innovations that I'm seeing there. Can't really tell you who this one is, but I can tell you it's revolutionizing how people are looking at ACL tears. Once upon a time, a doctor would come in, feel your knee, and determine whether or not you have a tear. Through the iPad, with pinpoint accuracy, not only are they able to diagnose exactly about the tear, but they can assign a grade to this, which becomes a national standard of care. That's what we talk about when we say game changing. And by the way, what makes it game changing is not just the native features of the iPad, but it's how you use the user experience for the doctor that actually has to adopt that. Because again, if the user experience in this case is not something that he or she can handle easily, they're not going to use it. It's just going to be like another free giveaway of another product that they're not going to get. Partners in Lending is a group that's out of New York City. They are in the inevitable position of being in the mortgage industry. And they are all about ethical standards in the mortgage lending business. But guess what? After 2008, they took a huge hit, like most of people in the mortgage industry, and were kind of struggling to remain relevant. Now, through the iPad app that they've built, they're able to have conversations every week about trends in the industry and how it's being shaped. Looks like we're getting a little short on time. Okay. I would say the question I have for you here now. Just open it to quick questions and a wrap. And anyone else have anything else you want to discuss about disruption, innovation, mobile, or social? Yeah. All right. Thank you for your time. Hopefully it was fun.
Thank you, Chris.